In today's Microsoft Excel tutorials video, we are going to see that how can we create a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. But before starting with the creation of the pivot table, let us understand that what is a pivot table. A pivot table is the one that holds flexible data in it, while a normal table holds a rigid data in it. So whenever you want to do some kind of analysis or you want to show a result of your original table, then you can easily use a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. And using this pivot table, you can easily create an analysis or a rough sketch or a kind of a report for yourself about the data that is already present in your original table. So for the existence of the pivot table, an original table is a must, and the pivot table is a subsidiary of the original table. The data of the original table does not change at any cost. All you need to do is you can add some rows to it, you can add some columns to it, or externally change the data. But the data of the pivot table can change even when the data of the original table is not changed externally. So how can this be possible in a pivot table? It is what we are going to learn in today's Microsoft Excel tutorial. But first of all, we are going to see that how can we create a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. So as I already told you, for the creation of the pivot table, one requirement is that you need to have an original table existing in your Microsoft Excel. Now here I already have my data table in front of me, and out of this data table only I'm going to create my pivot table. So how can you create your pivot table? First of all, you can just select any one cell of the table from which you want to create your pivot table. Then go to the Insert tab in Microsoft Excel, and in the Insert tab you will find an option called Pivot Table. So just click on it, and the first question it would ask you is choose the data that you want to analyze. That means the data that you want to be included in the pivot table. So you gotta select all the data along with its column headings. Now here I'm going to just select all this data and leaving on this heading which is data, and instead of it I'm just going to select all the data of my original data table. Or if you want, you can also select an external data source, which I'm going to cover up later. And then you want to select that where you want this pivot table to be placed. You can choose two options, either in a new worksheet or in the existing worksheet. If you just click on an existing worksheet, then you need to provide it with a location. That is, suppose if you just click on this cell, so the pivot table would be created from this cell. Or if you want, you can also click on a new worksheet, which I'm going to do. So just select new worksheet and click OK. Now as soon as you do that, you can see that a new sheet 7 has been created along with a pivot table over here and this menu in front of you. Now what is this menu will do? It will just help you in organizing the fields between four things, that is filters, columns, rows and values. And using these four fields, you can easily organize your data in the pivot table. Now if we just come back to our original table, then what columns do we have? We have serial number, order date, name, item, units, units cost and total. And when you go to sheet 7, then all these columns are available in a drop down fashion over here, like this: serial number, order, name, item, units, units cost and total. Now if you want to just know that on which order date how much items were purchased, so what will I do is I will just drag this order date into columns, and then the second is units, so I will drag it into rows, and the numerical values of these units we want to show. So I will just drag this units into the values, and actually in the rows I will be dragging in items and dragging units back to here. So this will help me to know that in the year 2018 what number of items were ordered. Like in 2018 227 binders were ordered, 2 desks were ordered, 106 pens were ordered, 112 pen sets were ordered, and 576 pencils were ordered. And similarly, this is the total data of the year 2019. Here you can see that this is a grand total, that how many binders were ordered in combined in the year 2018 and 2019. And here is the combined data, that how many items were ordered in the year 2018, and this is the combined data, that how many items were ordered in the year 2019. And this is a grand total, that how many items were ordered combined in the year 2018 and 2019. Now if you want to validate this data, then how can you do? You can just get a column, that is, in the year 2018 2 desks were ordered, and this is the data that you get, and you now need to validate it. So how can you validate it? You can just double click on it, and you can see that this is the whole table. This is actually a copy of the original table, that in the year 2018 a person named Smith ordered 2 desks, and this is the only order for the desks that we got in the year 2018. So that is what the data is exactly, and that is exactly what is shown in the pivot table. Now if you want to just organize the columns, you can organize it by years or by the quarters or by the order date as well. Now if we just move this order date into the beginning, then what will happen? Okay, so what will happen when we move this order date into the beginning? It first combined the data of the year January 2018, then combined the data of January 2019, and then the total amount of the data that we got in the month of January for both of the years. And similarly it does for all the 12 months. Now if we just move this quarter to the beginning, then what will happen? It will combine the data in a quarter-wise fashion, that in the first quarter how much orders were made, or how much orders were made, and then in the quarter 2, then in the quarter 3, and then in the quarter 4th. And if we just move this year to the beginning, then it would combine the data into an year-wise fashion. Similarly, if you want to just remove this column, you can just remove them back to this original place, and if you want to just organize it by name, so what will we do? We will just drag this name into the columns format, and what will happen now is we will get a name wise organization of the data. Suppose we go to Morgan, then Morgan ordered 28 binders, 55 pen sets, and 90 pencils together in the year 2018 and 19, and that is what data we got here. Now if you want to validate the data, you can what you can do is just double click over here, and there will be an order that yes, Morgan ordered 28 units of binders, and that is why this data is being shown to us. And if you want to just double click on this total, like 173 total items is what Morgan bought, and if you just double click on it, then a new sheet would be opened, and you can see that Morgan ordered 28 binders, 55 pen sets, and 90 pencils. And if you want, you can just view its total. So just auto sum it, and auto sum would generate to 173, which means that yes, Morgan totally ordered 173 units from us, from this data table. And if you want that some other things to be displayed as well, that instead of the units, its cost must be displayed. So we can just remove this units from here, and its cost would be displayed. So this is the total cost that is being displayed. And if you want to just show the data, like if we just go to Harvard and double click over here, then you can see that this is the units cost, and if we just calculate the total, it's $6.98, and that's exactly what is being shown in the sheet over here, that a total of $6.98 is what amount that Harvard purchased from us. And that's how you can create and organize a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. And as I told you, this pivot table holds flexible data, cause this data can be changed as per your wish. and as per you organize the data into the various fields, that is filter, columns, rows, and the values. And that is all that you can generate out of the pivot tables.